This is Jack Price with Prism Music. I have known Danny Baxter since he graduated from seminary, and I was with him in his first church in Albany, Georgia. I've been in 3,654 churches in concert and in workshops, and I've met a lot of ministers of music. Danny Baxter has as much integrity and character as any man that I've ever met. Probably works harder than any minister of music that I've ever been with. You will be blessed beyond measure to have him as your minister of music. And by the way, your preacher's not too bad. I've known Brother Mac for years and years and years, and I can truthfully say that the best for y'all is yet to come. May God bless you.
I called two pastors and spoke with them, and they both had worked with him for numerous years and spoke highly of Brother Danny. Both pastors strongly emphasized how great Brother Danny's people skills were. They said that Brother Danny loved people and people loved him. Both men also told me that Brother Danny was a great team member, that he was great to work with on staff, and that he was also a great mentor to the younger men on staff. A statement that I received was that he was the best he had ever worked with.
I interviewed two gentlemen that were personal friends of Brother Danny's. The first one was at the first church he was at, and he just couldn't say enough about his care for the people in the church, how dedicated he was to anything he started. He finished it to the best of his ability, to the glory of God. And he said that when Brother Danny left, he didn't want him to leave, but he knew God wanted him to, and that he'd take him back in a minute. The other gentleman that I spoke to said that he and his wife are in the ministry, and they've known Brother Danny for 30 years, and he just couldn't say enough about him, about how dedicated he is. And he said probably that his greatest flaw was that you had to slow him down.
I had two interviews about Brother Danny. One was a pastor and one was a minister of music. They both described him as not only a great co-worker, but also as a personal friend. And their strengths were very similar. They both had great praise for him as far as his calling and his obedience to the calling. They said he had, we're going into the three great things. He has great people skills. Both the people mentioned that he had great people skills, and it's evident. They said that he was a good leader, not only as a director, but as a leader for others. They mentioned that he was a great organizer, not only in the choir, but for other things. They said he had a strong pastoral drive to him. He was a minister to the choir and to others, as well as being the minister of music in his job. He was very dedicated and obedient in all things, a hard worker, and they both said a hard worker.
He is very spiritual, and the leadership he provides to the congregation makes us spiritual. He draws us in. He has a character that shows he is committed to worship and committed to setting the tone that Brother Mac needs to have a good sermon and to have a good total service. He's very talented. It's a good voice.
So in some of the interviews that we were able to talk to some of Brother Danny's acquaintances, friends, and people who've known him for years, there were a couple of men that I spoke with who were well acquainted with him, were able to work one-on-one with him for years. And they talked about how such a genuine spiritual leader he is. He's a leader who, if you meet him on stage and you see what he's doing on stage during the worship services, that's exactly what you're going to get from a spiritual standpoint when you meet him one-on-one. Talked about how his spiritual personality is just top of the class, and I think we've appreciated that already as choir members. We've seen how upbeat he is, how such a great spiritual leader is. He encourages us in the choir. He's really taken the choir to another level already, we feel like, the way his leadership has been. And when it comes to his personality, he's just so personable with that. He remembers conversations that we've had. We talk about things, and then he comes back to us and he'll ask questions about family and about things that are going on in our lives, and that's all really appreciated. And so we're glad to see him doing that. And then, one other thing that we found about him is this: he's just so committed. He just works hard. All the references talked about how hard he works and how much he just throws himself into whatever he's doing. And we've seen that. He's just absolutely committed to what he's doing. He wants it to be top notch. He works hard to make it the best he can be. And then that encourages the choir and the music ministry to be the best they can be as well. And so that's always appreciated when that encouragement comes along as well.
So the interview is very positive with Brother Danny. Miss Cindy being part of his ministry, very, very positive as far as his energy, the amount of time that he puts in, and also being in the will of God. Some of the words that stick out in my mind as we go through the interview process and talking those references is being a servant. And again, some of the things that we heard is that his ministry doesn't have any boundaries. He wants to be in God's will. That's what they were telling us. He wants to serve God, and he wants to do it to the best of his ability. I see that a little bit with that servant's heart, as we've seen here. He was good enough to come to us, help us out during the interim period as we saw it, or as a fill-in, as we had some open Sundays. And we saw that energy as he came in. We even saw him during the course of initial days going out making hospital visits to some of the choir members who were hospitalized. In other words that come to me, and as we've talked to the references, is his love for people. In fact, some of the interviews that we had said that was a great gift of his. In fact, Brother Danny has told the choir that it's very important to him to build those relationships. And we heard that all around with the search team. And as I think through it, I see how he would compliment our current staff and our current ministers, the way that they have a love for people and the caring for people. So again, a big gift with him and also with the church. And last but not least, I think what we also heard was just his worship and his preparation on it, but how he actually led the people in worship. Some of the people that I talked to talked about how he would come in, and then with his preparation and leading the services, you just feel the presence of God. In fact, the different music styles that came through, able to get everyone involved in it. And I'll just say in my life, as I've been through these past weeks, that you sit in front of Brother Danny as he leads us through the musical worship, and then followed by a sermon by our pastor, and you leave knowing that you've been in the presence of God.
Passionate, committed, and faithful.
Dedicated, energetic, and his love for people and for the Lord.
He is transparent. He has an excellent presence.
Talented, eager to have the kind of service that Woodridge wants.
Genuine, upbeat, and a strong spiritual leader.
And very friendly. The people is probably his greatest strength. In fact, is what I've seen with the choir and the orchestra over these past weeks. He's developed relationships that I would say would probably take months to develop over with someone that would take that position.
Okay, that was 45 words, but that'll do.
Okay.
This was back when we were doing stuff for Vacation Bible School, and we were doing the blessing bags, and we needed Bibles to put in all the blessing bags. And someone said, you could go to the America's Thrift Store, and they give out Bibles there, and they do mission stuff, and maybe we could get some from there and get them donated, so we didn't have to use a lot of our money we had been donated to buy the Bibles, and we could use it for food and such. So I went to the America's Thrift Store, and they said, you're going to speak with the manager, and this manager guy came out and said, hey, I'm Danny, it's nice to meet you. And I said, hey, I'm working with the group at Woodridge Baptist Church for Vacation Bible School, and we were going to see if y'all could help us with some Bibles. And he said, sure, absolutely, let me see what I can do for you. And he went through the store. He helped me get as many Bibles as he could. And he said, this is all I have. Take all of them. I love what you're doing. I love that y'all are doing that. And he said, do you need anything else? And I said, well, we're going to make blessing bags to put with the Bibles. So I'm looking for toiletries and stuff like that. And he said, well, come on, let me see what else I have. He walked me through the rest of the store and probably spent 45 minutes or an hour with me and telling me about the homeless people in the area and what he does. And he was just really sweet and really helpful and took time out to help me with that. And he didn't even know us, so he was really nice.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? And he did. I mean, he walked us through, and so I'm telling him, I'm like, we don't have any idea. I was like, we're trying to do a 6-mile mission at our church and reach the people in a 6-mile radius. And he was like, well, I used to be in the ministry. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. And he never told me what. So I was just like, well, that's cool or whatever. And he said, but let me see what I can do for you. And he said, when you go to do this, what do you mean y'all can't really get started? I said, well, you want to help homeless people and needy people, but really on an everyday basis. You don't pass them. You don't see homeless people on the side of the road coming out of your neighborhood. And he was like, you get your group together and you come to me. And he said, I will take you to the homeless people. And he did. I mean, there was a man that came in while we were in there, and he said, excuse me, hold on just a second. And the homeless man was like, Danny, what's up? And he he had no shoes on, and he knew him. He knew Danny, and Danny talked to him, and was like, I'm sorry, Jan. And I was like, no, that is absolutely awesome. I was like, that warms my heart, Mm-hmm. So we left, and we came back, and I told Jennifer and Brother Gary, I said, listen, I met this guy today. I said, y'all, it's what we're looking for. I said, we needed someone to take us to homeless people, and he knows where they're at, where they hang out, where they live. And he said he'll help us, and I got his name and number. So then fast forward 6 months, and Jennifer calls me, and she's like, what did you say that guy's name was that you said was so helpful at the thrift store? And I'm like, I don't know. I got his name written down somewhere. Why? She's like, I think he's coming to our church to sing. And I was like, what? She was like, I think he's coming to our church to sing. And I was like, why is the man from America's Thrift Store coming to our church to sing? She said, I think when he told you he was in the ministry, I think he was a music minister. So there we are 6 months later. So isn't that funny how it all worked out?